I'm Diane Macedo. Thanks for streaming with us. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky is praising his people for defending their country after claims Ukrainian forces sank Russia's biggest warship in the Black Sea in a missile attack. Russia's defense ministry says the ship sank after a fire broke out on board. Still, Russian forces appear close to taking control of a key port city, and now our team is reporting explosions near the capital. Marcus Moore is in Kyiv with the latest.
New images out of Mariupol showing the increasing devastation in the already battered city that has been at the center of fierce fighting between Russian and Ukrainian forces. The commander of Ukrainian Marine Forces there saying the situation is critical and pleading this morning for help to break the Russian siege, saying, quote, it must be done as soon as possible. And the Russians suffering a major blow to their military and its morale, confirming the country's largest ship, the Moskva, sunk in the Black Sea. Ukraine's military claims 2 of its anti-missiles hit the cruiser, but Russia says the damage came after a fire on board near its ammunition stores. President Zelensky applauding those defending Ukraine, saying, quote, those who have shown that Russian ships can go to the bottom only. In the wake of the explosion, a U.S. defense official now says Russia has moved several of its ships operating in the region farther away from the coast. And as the $800 million in new U.S. military aid goes to Ukraine, the Washington Post reporting the Russians warning the U.S. in a formal diplomatic note of, quote, unpredictable consequences, saying the U.S. and NATO were adding fuel to the conflict with the weapons shipments. With the Russian military facing setbacks all over the country, the U.S. CIA director warning that Putin could escalate Russian attacks in Ukraine.
None of us can take lightly the threat posed by a potential resort to tactical nuclear weapons.
But he adds they've not seen practical evidence that such a move could happen in the near future. Just outside Kyiv, we saw the devastation Russians have left behind. You can see the burned out vehicles just behind me, and then off in the distance, that building, all of its windows blown out. And look at the wall there, signs of the shrapnel. In this area alone, so many lives have been torn apart by the invasion. Is this your home? Это твой дом?
Да, это мой дом.
Andrei Sovenyuk told us Russian fascists came here in a tank, sending him, his wife, and 15-year-old daughter running to a neighbor's basement for safety. He showed us pieces of the round he says left his family's home in ruins.
And let's bring in ABC's Marcus Moore live in Kyiv, Ukraine for more on this. Marcus, I know you traveled from Lviv to Kyiv. What was that trip like, and what did you see along the way?
Oh, Diana, it's a very long journey now along the highways that cut through the farmland of Ukraine, and it's a chilling trip as well because as you get closer to the city of Kyiv, you begin to see the ugly results of this war, the homes and businesses that have been destroyed, and also along the way you go through a number of checkpoints, and it gives you a sense of what life has been like since the start of this war for the people who live here in Ukraine. And once we got into the city of Kyiv, a normally bustling city, it was quiet. There was traffic, but there were only a dozen or so people out on the street, for example, an area that ordinarily would have many more people out walking their dogs or just going on about their everyday lives. But it has not been business as usual here in Kyiv, nor has the journey from Lviv to the capital city since this war began back in February.
And Marcus, one of Ukraine's commanders whose brigade is fighting to defend Mariupol has issued an urgent plea for help. What's the latest on what's happening there?
Well, first, Diane, it has been very difficult to get information, get updates on what's been happening in Mariupol, and that's what's significant about this report, that commander saying that the situation there is critical, that they are in need of help to break the siege that Russia has ongoing there in that part of the country. And one of the things that the Ukrainians have been requesting and imploring Western governments to provide is additional military equipment so that they can continue this battle, because every sense that we have received over these past couple of weeks is that the battle there, that they are just hanging on. They are hanging on. It is still a fight, but just how much longer they can keep this going remains to be seen. And in order for them to do that, they have the will to fight, Diane, but what they have been needing is more heavy equipment. And we know that the United States is sending $800 million in military aid to Ukraine, and the hope is on the part of the Ukrainians that could help them in this fight and hold off the Russians in this onslaught.
And Marcus, earlier this week, UNICEF said about 1.4 1.4 million people have been left without clean running water in eastern Ukraine. We also know lots of people across the country are at risk or have already lost power. So how are people dealing with that?
Diane, they're doing as best they can. They're making do with what they have. And certainly, it's one of the reasons why officials here have urged people not to return to places like Kyiv, where we are right now, because of the fragile infrastructure, and as well as the risk or the potential for airstrikes that are anticipated in the coming days. They're expected to increase. So not only do you have that safety aspect of the situation here, but also with more people coming in, it does put an extra strain on the infrastructure. But the short answer to your question is people are just doing the best they can. It is important to point out that we are out of the winter season and getting into the spring and then the summer, and that's good news because certainly the people who have remained and stayed in the eastern part of the country or here in Ukraine won't have to heat their homes like they would have had to do just months ago.
And Marcus, tell us about these reported explosions near the capital where you are.
Diane, there had been reports overnight of explosions. We did hear reports that perhaps some sites outside of the city were targeted. What is unclear is exactly what those airstrikes hit, and also if the explosions, were they anti-aircraft or missile fire air defense equipment that caused those explosions, or were they the result of actual missiles that landed on a target? We just don't know at this point, but I can tell you that we have heard the air raid sirens going off today, and that officials here in Ukraine have been urging people who are in the city to be vigilant, that when they hear those sirens to find cover immediately, because they anticipate that the number of airstrikes are expected to increase here in the coming days.
All right, Marcus Moore in Kyiv, thank you. And tensions are growing in Jerusalem, where violent clashes have erupted between Israeli police and Palestinian protesters at a major holy site. The fighting started after Israeli security forces entered the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound before dawn today. That triggered protests from Palestinians who are worshiping the holy month of Ramadan. Ariel Reshef has just returned from Israel, and she has the latest.
This morning, clashes and chaos in Jerusalem. More than 100 injured after Israeli security forces entered the Al-Aqsa Mosque after they say Palestinians hurled rocks along the mosque's perimeter. Israeli police firing tear gas and stun grenades, the move seen as a provocation. 60 people inside the mosque arrested. The Israeli police saying 3 officers were wounded from what they call massive stone throwing. All of this happening as both Ramadan and Passover fall on the same weekend. Both holidays expected to bring tens of thousands into Jerusalem's Old City. Tensions have been heightened amid a recent wave of violence at the holy site, which is sacred to both Jews and Muslims. Clashes here helped spark an 11-day war with Hamas militants in the Gaza Strip last year. Over the last few weeks, the deadliest spate of violence since 2016. 14 killed, among them Jews, Arab Israelis, and foreign nationals, in 4 separate Palestinian attacks inside the country. And Israeli officials say that they are committed to the religious freedom of peaceful worshipers at the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Hamas and other Palestinian militant groups have called for resistance for days. A Hamas spokesperson today saying they are committed to protecting and defending the Al-Aqsa Mosque at all costs. Diane?
All right, Ariel Reshef, thank you. And Patrick Lyoya's parents are now speaking out after their 26-year-old son was shot and killed by a police officer after a struggle during a traffic stop in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Lyoya's parents say the officer did not have to use lethal force. They believe their son was executed. Alex Perez has more.
Protesters taking to the streets for another day, demanding the firing of the Grand Rapids, Michigan police officer who shot and killed 26-year-old Patrick Lyoya. His family speaking out for the first time, the Congolese immigrants through a translator expressing their grief and asking that the officer be prosecuted.
As a parent, I was thinking maybe it was my son who was going to bury me. He will assist at my funeral. But what is so astonishing, I am the one burying my son.
The incident recorded on officer body camera, dash cam, security cameras, and a bystander's cell phone, unfolding back on April 4th when police say Lioya was pulled over because the plates on his car were registered to a different vehicle.
No. Stop. Put your hands right.
The situation quickly escalating when Lioya attempts to flee and the officer pursues. The officer deploys his taser, Lioya fighting and wrestling to get to the officer's taser.
Okay. Stop!
With Lioya down and facing the ground, the officer ends up on top of him, and as the struggle continues, the officer then draws his firearm and shoots Lioya in the head. Family attorney Ben Crump argues while Lioya was trying to escape, he never threatened the officer.
It is unjustifiable use of deadly force because the police escalated a traffic stop into an execution.
And Diane, state police continue to investigate the shooting and the officer's use of force. They will hand over their findings to the prosecutor, who'll then determine if charges will be filed. Diane?
All right, Alex, thank you. Coming up, the latest details on Elon Musk's major play to buy Twitter, why he now says he wants to gain control of the platform when we come back. Welcome back. Elon Musk is revealing more behind his motivations to buy Twitter. The Tesla and SpaceX founder took the stage at a TED Talk conference, I should say, telling the audience that he's offering $43 billion for the company because he thinks it's, quote, important for there to be an inclusive arena for free speech. He's also promising a long-debated edit button for Twitter. Chief Business Correspondent Rebecca Jarvis has more.
The wealthiest person in the world, Elon Musk, threatening a hostile takeover of Twitter. Musk is already the social media giant's largest individual shareholder, but now he wants to own it outright, offering $54.20 a share, totaling about $43 billion.
Elon Musk.
Just hours after the offer went public, Musk appeared at the TED 2022 conference and described his motivation for the attempted acquisition.
Well, I think it's very important for there to be an inclusive arena for free speech. Twitter has become kind of the de facto town square.
Musk, worth an estimated $265 billion according to Forbes, announced the offer Thursday morning on Twitter, of course, where he has 82 million followers. His filing includes a letter to the chairman of Twitter's board saying he hopes to unlock the company's potential, but that Twitter needs to be transformed as a private company. Musk says he wants to open up Twitter's algorithm and again promised a long-debated edit button. But he was evasive when asked about what he'd do if his offer is rejected.
Is there a plan B? There is.
Musk is already facing pushback from some investors. Some employees at Twitter are concerned about what his involvement in the company might entail. There is a class action lawsuit over the timing of his initial disclosure about his 9% stake in the company. And now it's up to Twitter's board to review his proposal, which is exactly what they say they will do. Diane?
Rebecca Jarvis, thanks for that. And ABC News contributor and business expert Alexis Christoforous is here for more on this. Alexis, what's the end game here for Elon Musk?
I think we're all trying to figure that out now, including the company's board. I mean, he said during that TED Talk yesterday he believes that Twitter is this de facto town square. He said it is important to American civilization that we have free speech. And he made very clear that his motivation here is not profit, it's not money, it is democracy and freedom of speech. And he has said that he doesn't want them to police content anymore. If somebody says something that can be construed as hate speech, he doesn't want them banned from the site necessarily. He wants them to have what he's calling a timeout. He says that taking the company private could help unlock its potential. And he says then they wouldn't have to answer to advertisers or to shareholders, so the company would have more freedom to protect freedom of speech in his eyes.
So what needs to happen to make this deal a reality, and how likely is it to happen?
I think it's really a long shot, and lots of experts seem to agree. You know, he is the wealthiest person in the world, worth more than $274 billion. So you would think it would be easy for him to buy this company, which he's valuing at $43 billion. But time and time again, Musk has said he is cash poor, meaning he doesn't have a lot of cash on hand. A lot of his money is wrapped up in stock options, and so he wouldn't be able to access that money freely. So we'll have to see if the deal can happen at all. Yesterday, the Saudi prince, bin Talal, said that he's against the deal. He thinks that it would actually undervalue the company, and he's one of the largest shareholders in Twitter.
All right, Alexis Christophers, thank you for that. We will be right back with more of the day's top stories. Stay with us. Welcome back. New York Mayor Eric Adams is thanking police, first responders, and transit workers for their actions after the mass subway shooting in Brooklyn.
I want to thank every single MTA employee for their entire commitment, dedication, and service. I want to also say in this time of crisis, you kept the trains, the buses, and the ferries moving.
In just a moment, we're going to speak live with an MTA train operator and a train conductor who are being hailed as heroes this morning. Meanwhile, the accused gunman in the shooting is being held without bond as we learn new details about the attack. The suspect appeared in federal court yesterday in Brooklyn, where prosecutors told the judge his alleged actions, carefully planned, caused terror across the entire city. The 62-year-old is accused of firing 33 rounds in a crowded subway car during the busy morning commute, sending nearly 30 people to the hospital. Janae Norman has the latest from Brooklyn.
New details emerging as law enforcement sources tell ABC News alleged subway attacker Frank James may have rushed the attack, saying they're investigating whether he allegedly started the attack earlier than intended. Authorities believe after setting off a smoke grenade, James knelt on one knee and opened fire, hitting 10 people, saying that's why most victims were hit in their hands or their legs. The 62-year-old suspect appearing before a federal judge Thursday on that terror-related charge of carrying out a violent, premeditated act on mass transit after crossing state lines. Prosecutors claiming the attack was premeditated, carefully planned, and caused terror among the victims and the entire city. Court filings say James had enough ammunition and supplies in this Philadelphia storage unit to carry out even more attacks. But his defense attorney praising James for turning himself in.
Yesterday, Mr. James saw his photograph on the news. He called Crime Stoppers to help. He told them where he was.
New York City resident Jack Griffin capturing these photos of James in New York's East Village moments before his capture.
About 20 feet away, I saw Frank James sitting down at that bench over there. And so I got out my camera and I quickly took a photo of the street. And that's when he noticed that he was being photographed and he started walking away.
ABC affiliate WISN capturing this footage of federal agents at James's home in Milwaukee as the investigation spans multiple states.
Our thanks to Janae Norman for that report. And joining me live now is MTA train operator David Artis and MTA train conductor Raven Haynes, who were working on that subway train when the shooting took place. Now they are both being hailed as heroes for how they reacted. David, Raymond, thank you both for being here. Raven, I'd like to start with you. Can you walk me through what you were doing when the shooting happened and what you remember from what happened that morning?
I remember us stopping between 59th Street and 36th Street, and my partner going over the radio saying to RCC that we had a passenger report of a shooting on the train. We then waited for RCC's instructions. They told us to pull into 36th Street, open the doors, and hold in the station. After I opened the doors, I looked down the platform and I saw the whole entire second car was full of smoke, as well as passengers falling out of the train and onto the platform floor. From then on, I saw the R train pulling into the station. I directed the passengers that we had a smoke condition and to board the R train coming in across the platform and to not board our train. After that train left, my partner realized that there were injured passengers that physically got onto the R train, and he made sure the R train was stopped so that we can get medical to that train. After that, the D train came in shortly after. We were already told by RCC to make sure that our train was fully discharged. So I made sure when the train came in, the doors opened, that I made an announcement telling the passengers, do not board our train. Please do not board our train. Our train is now out of service due to a smoke condition. Please take the D train across the platform. And then after that, I secured my cab, went towards my partner to see if he needed help with anything. I noticed the EMS and fire department coming downstairs, so I guided them to the second car to make sure that our passengers that were injured were taken care of.
And David, there was presumably, and it looks from the video, a lot of chaos happening in that moment. What do you remember about that moment that you realized? How did you finally realize what was happening?
From the passengers in my car alerting me and telling me what they heard and what they saw. Then I alerted control, you know, and as my partner said, thank God for her, I pulled into the station. I enabled her to open the doors. The customers got out and ran off the train. Our train was pulling in. I told the customers, get on the train. But obviously the injured ones, they couldn't, so they were laying on the floor. And that train left out. Another train came in. We told the rest of the customers, if you're not injured, get on the train. Get on the train. If you're not injured, get on the train. And the smoke, it went away. EMS came on the scene. NYPD came on the scene. And they took over.
How scared were you in that moment?
I wasn't really scared. Yeah. It's like it's like natural instincts kicked in, and the reality was that our first priority was our riders. We just wanted to make sure that they got out of the area as quickly and safely as possible without causing any more chaos. Because as long as we are calm, cool, and collected, our passengers can be calm and collected, and ensuring that they're calm helps that they move more easily, more safely, and thanks to that, I feel like a lot more lives were saved that day because we were able to actually physically get them out of there.
And it sounds like the two of you not only stayed calm yourselves, but you're also being credited with helping everybody else to stay calm so they could go ahead and evacuate that area quickly. But David, so many New Yorkers rely on the subway to commute, to get around, and many feel unsafe on the subway right now. What's your message to them?
I mean, it's safe. The subways are safe. New York is safe.
But I feel like you're more safe when you have people like us there to protect you in case of chaos. When you have our MTA, our NYPD, our fire department, everyone, our first responders there to make sure everything is taken care of, I feel like that's what makes it safe. Knowing that they can come as fast as they did and take care of our injured passengers as fast as they did.
And can you show me what you guys are holding in your hands right now?
This is from the mayor. It says David Arter's Day.
And Raven Haynes Day. Just a little token of appreciation from our wonderful mayor.
Well, a token of appreciation from the whole city. David, Raven, we appreciate your time today, and we appreciate your quick thinking and your calm demeanor throughout what happened on Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Likewise.
And thank you for joining us. I'm Diane Macedo. Stay with us as ABC News Live continues with news, context, and analysis.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.